On Valentine's Day, my wife claimed she was too busy with work only for her divorced stepbrother to send me a video that shattered my world. I, male 29, have been married to my wife, Marie, 32, for 4 years, and we've always had what I thought was a perfect relationship. Both of us came from deeply toxic family dynamics, so this relationship has been our sanctuary of open and honest communication, or at least that's what I believed until that fateful night. For me, I have a lot of trauma associated with cheating since my mom left my dad for somebody else when I was just 12. I still remember the night she packed her bags, telling me she'd found her true soulmate in my dad's best friend. And for Marie, her mother remarried, and she has, in her words, the world's worst relationship with her stepbrother Lucas, and no relationship with her parents. At least, that's the story she fed me for years. It's so bad between her and her parents that I've never interacted with them. They weren't invited to our wedding either, something that raised eyebrows among our guests, but Marie had convinced me it was for the best. I mean, from the little interaction I have had with her brother, she has no contact with her parents. I could see why. While he was exceptionally handsome and smart, with the kind of chiseled jawline you'd see in fashion magazines, there was an aloof vibe from him and that put me off immediately. Looking back now, I should have trusted my instincts more. And to make things worse, there was barely any interaction between Marie and Lucas during family gatherings or social events. So I was the one making small talk and trying to reduce the awkwardness in the air, playing the role of the cheerful husband trying to mend family bridges. In the 4 years we've known each other, I think Lucas has texted or interacted with me about 5 times, mostly on Snapchat. All I know about him is that he was married, but got divorced a few weeks into the marriage and after that basically lived like an isolated prince in his luxury downtown apartment, funded by his trust fund. Marie is also really cold with her brother, but with me, she's the most romantic woman ever, or so I thought. We always use words of affirmation, cuddle a lot, and make time for each other during anniversaries, birthdays, and Valentines. Even on regular weekdays, she'd surprise me with little notes in my lunchbox or send spontaneous I love you texts during work hours. I'll be honest, as bad as Marie's brother is, he's her only family link that I know of. However, this Valentine's, Marie told me a week in advance that she has a large project going on which would take up so much of her time and energy that she didn't think that she would be able to make me feel excited and happy with her half-assed efforts on Valentine's. She even pulled up her laptop to show me the project timeline, complete with impossible deadlines and multiple client meetings scheduled. So she told me that on 14th February, she'd be working late, but we could always have a special day later on in the month. I won't lie. I was quite beaten up about this, but I didn't let it show and I respected her decision, like any supportive husband would. Marie does work in a really high-pressure environment, a consultant for a big accounting firm, and at other times I have seen her get completely swept away by work, coming home with dark circles under her eyes and barely enough energy to eat dinner. It's just that this time the timing was really bad. Nevertheless, I made her a cute little package on the morning of 14th. Her favorite snacks, those artisanal chocolates from the boutique downtown that she loves, some homemade cookies I baked at midnight, and the expensive coffee beans she'd been eyeing for weeks. I also included a little teddy we keep in our bedroom usually, and a handwritten note to cheer her up during work. The note took me almost an hour to write, pouring my heart out about how much she meant to me. Then I took the majority of the day as a self-care day, trying to stay positive despite feeling lonely on Valentine's. I went to the mall, bought some nice clothes, and also got a mani-pedi, something Marie had been encouraging me to try for months. I got home around 6 p.m., and Marie still wasn't home. The house felt eerily empty, our usual evening routine of cooking dinner together conspicuously absent. Then 7 p.m. passed, then 8 p.m., then 9 p.m. With each passing hour, the knot in my stomach grew tighter. By 10 p.m., I was getting really worried and tried calling her a few times. Each ring felt like an eternity, only to be met with her cheerful voicemail message. I didn't get any response and was nervously checking my phone for a callback every few minutes, pacing our living room floor until I'd probably worn a path in the carpet. Then around 11:30, I got a snap from Lucas, and I don't know how to put this mildly, but it was a clip of him and my wife getting it on in what looked like an expensive hotel room, and it was captioned, "It's time you knew she's mine." The video was crystal clear, there was no mistaking my wife's face, her distinctive tattoo visible on her shoulder. Even worse, in the background I could see the care package that I made for her thrown carelessly on the floor, almost intentionally placed in the frame. The homemade cookies were scattered across the carpet, and the teddy bear lay face down like some cruel metaphor for our marriage. There were so many thoughts going through my head when I saw this, and I didn't even know how to react at that moment. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my phone twice. I remember crying and walking out of the house to stay at a hotel, not even bothering to pack a bag. The February air was freezing, but I barely felt it through the numbness of betrayal. From there, I called one of my closest friends, Elias, and asked him if I could stay at his place for the next few weeks, and told him what I had seen. He was understanding, patient, and most of all, pissed at Marie. Elias had known us both since college, had been my best man at the wedding, and had always commented on how perfect Marie and I seemed together. While I was at the hotel, I went to the bar, ordering drink after drink until the edges of my pain started to blur. The bartender, a kind older woman named Beth, kept asking if I was okay, but how could I explain that my entire life had just imploded? At that moment, I was feeling distraught and just wanted to forget everything. The hotel bar was hosting some corporate event, and it was filled with well-dressed professionals unwinding after their meetings. I'm not going to lie, I also wanted to get back at Marie, and I couldn't get the image of her and her stepbrother having an affair together out of my head. At the bar, I ended up meeting this attractive-looking woman. She was a pharmaceutical sales rep named Jessica, in town for a conference. One drink led to another, and before I knew it, I was taking her back to my room. The whole time, a voice in the back of my head kept screaming that this wasn't like me, that this wouldn't solve anything. I know I shouldn't have, and I was still technically married, but my trust was so badly betrayed that at this point there was no option but divorce for me. I had a one-night stand and woke up the next morning with a pounding headache and a crushing sense of guilt, along with a bunch of increasingly frantic messages from Marie asking me where I was. Looking at my phone, I saw 27 missed calls and over 50 text messages. I texted back just 4 words, "Lucas can have you." For what felt like ages, she didn't reply to the message, and then I can explain, just come home and it isn't what it looks like. As if she'd taken every generic text out of the cheater's playbook. Each message notification made my stomach turn. I left her on read and went over to Elias's place to gather my bearings. His apartment was small but comfortable, and he'd already set up the guest room for me. After that, I decided to call an attorney, a shark of a lawyer named Patricia who came highly recommended for handling messy divorces. Then I went back to the house to get a few more clothes, timing it when I knew Marie would normally be at work. But when I got there, Marie was at home and fell on her knees in our foyer to try and get me to stay. Her makeup was smeared from crying, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Then I asked her what her excuse was. Get this, she says that Lucas sent an edited photo to spite her and our marriage. I remember the video as clear as day, you could even see the timestamp and the hotel's distinctive wallpaper in the background. That wasn't any Photoshop magic. I asked her for proof if she even had any. Silence from her, just more tears and pleading. I was honestly getting pissed and told her that her lame excuses weren't having any effect on me. I texted Lucas back as well in front of her, typing out "Yep, all yours" while she watched, her face crumpling. Finally, I left. That was a week ago and Marie has been served with divorce papers. The look on her face when she was served at her office, according to my lawyer's process server, was one of complete shock, as if she never thought I'd actually go through with it. Elias and my friend group have been ridiculously supportive, taking turns cooking meals for me and making sure I'm never alone for too long. My social media has been flooded with messages from mutual friends, most taking my side once they heard what happened. From what I know, Marie is just living alone at her house, though she's been repeatedly trying to contact me through different numbers since I blocked her. Although with my lawyer, that's probably going to be my house, Patricia says with the video evidence and Marie's 6-figure salary, we have a strong case for both the house and substantial alimony. Although, I still feel a little guilty about the one-night stand that I had. Jessica left her number, but I deleted it immediately. Was it warranted for me to simply have a drunken night while I was still married? I know that it shouldn't be a big issue for me given what Marie did. But due to my parents and the trauma of watching my mom destroy our family with infidelity, marriage has always been a kind of big thing for me, and that's why it's taking such a toll on me. Every time I close my eyes, I see that video, or worse, imagine all the times they must have been together while I was obliviously going about my life. Lucas responded to my text with a long message saying this was a long time coming and that it was for the best. His message was almost gleeful, talking about how Marie had always been his and their connection was something I could never understand. I don't even want to know how long this has been going on, and I honestly couldn't care less about their twisted relationship. Each revelation feels like another knife in my back. This whole story feels like it's something I'd read about on BuzzFeed or watch on some trashy reality TV show. I keep expecting to wake up and find out this was all some horrible nightmare. I'm getting a little overwhelmed by it all, and my replies may also be slow. But all I need to know right now, Reddit, is am I the a-hole for the one-night stand? Update 1. It's been a few months since the incident, and so much crazy stuff has come to light that I almost don't know where to begin. The rabbit hole goes deeper than I ever imagined. First off, I got a Facebook message from a woman with the same last name as Marie, let's say X because I don't want anyone accidentally finding out my identity, claiming to be her mother. The message came late one night as I was trying to distract myself with mindless scrolling. She told me that she was sorry that Marie had hurt me as she did, and that the situation was painfully familiar to her. And in fact, she'd only recently found out about the fact that Marie was married and that I was her husband through extended family and a lot of digging on her part. Apparently, Marie had gone to great lengths to keep our marriage secret from her family. The mother's message was long and detailed, full of pain and regret. She then asked if I would be comfortable meeting with her and Marie's stepfather, saying they had information I needed to know. I obliged and went over to visit them about an hour's drive away, pulling up to a modest suburban house that seemed to hold so many secrets. Mrs. X greeted me at the door with tears in her eyes. I could see traces of Marie in her features, the same high cheekbones and expressive brown eyes. The inside of their home was filled with family photos, but I noticed Marie was conspicuously absent from most of them after her teenage years. Over cups of coffee that grew cold as the story unfolded, they shared everything. So Mrs. X had remarried when Marie was around 18, right after Marie had graduated high school as valedictorian. Her new husband also had a son from a previous marriage, that being Lucas, who was attending the same university Marie was headed to. At first, everyone thought it was perfect. The kids would have someone familiar on campus, a built-in friend during that challenging freshman year. If only they'd known. When they were around 20, during a surprise visit to their shared apartment near campus, red flag number 1 that I wish they'd told me about, who shares an apartment with their step-sibling. The parents found out that Marie and Lucas had been hooking up. Mrs. X described walking in on them in the living room, the moment seared into her memory like a brand. This was crazy for them, their worst nightmare as newly blended family parents coming true. Not budging a bit, Marie's mom basically said that if they continued this behavior, she would go no contact with them. She even threatened to cut off Marie's college funding, hoping it would shock some sense into them. Nothing like what Marie had told me about her family being the toxic ones who couldn't accept her. The stepfather, a quiet man who had barely spoken during the conversation, finally broke his silence to share how Lucas had changed after meeting Marie. He was always a good kid, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Straight A's, captain of the debate team. But after they started whatever this was, he became secretive, manipulative. It was like he was obsessed. He showed me old text messages from that time, Lucas raging against them for trying to keep him and Marie apart, claiming they were meant to be together. From then on, they didn't know much about what Marie and Lucas got up to as they both moved out and didn't keep in touch. Their social media went dark, their phone numbers changed, and they seemed to vanish into thin air. The parents tried hiring private investigators, but the trail always went cold. From what I can make out, Marie married me to have a front of normalcy while she could continue getting with Lucas, a respectable facade to hide their forbidden relationship behind. And then came the biggest shock of all. The ex-wife Lucas had, Catherine was her name, she was in the same situation as me. Mrs. X had managed to track her down through a mutual acquaintance. Catherine had been a successful pediatrician, swept off her feet by Lucas's charm and seemingly perfect life. She also found out eventually about the step-sibling affair, and that's how they got divorced, though Lucas and Marie had been far less dramatic in their reveal to her, simply leaving a hotel receipt where she would find it. I'm not going to lie. All of this made sense, and little weird things Marie did make sense now, falling into place like pieces of a horrifying puzzle. The work trips she had taken previously to client sites across the country, they were probably carefully orchestrated rendezvous with Lucas. The way Lucas acted with me, that artificial distance, it was to make sure I never got too close to him, never saw through their charade. The separate holiday celebrations, the lack of family photos in our home, the way Marie would sometimes zone out during conversations about her college years, it all clicked into a nauseating pattern. But one thing doesn't make sense then, something that kept nagging at me as I drove home from that revelatory meeting. If these two had planned it out so carefully for so many years, maintaining their secret relationship while using marriages as cover, why exactly did Lucas send that snap? Why blow up their elaborate facade in such a dramatic way? I don't have too many people close to them to ask, and Marie's parents were just as baffled by this sudden exposure. Maybe it'll always remain a mystery, I thought. But life had one more twist in store for me. Well, that didn't stay a mystery for long. I gave Mrs. X Marie's contact number, mostly because I was exhausted from being the keeper of so many secrets. She called her daughter immediately, putting her on speakerphone while I sat in their living room, hearing my soon-to-be ex-wife's voice crackle through the phone's speakers. Despite wanting to never speak to her again, I think Mrs. X felt a sense of obligation to me for the way I had been treated by her daughter. She was a real lady, I'll admit, unlike her daughter, she even held my hand during the difficult parts of the conversation. On the call, Marie's carefully constructed walls came crashing down. She tried to push all the blame on Lucas, her voice rising to near hysteria as she spun a tale of manipulation and coercion. According to her, Lucas had been getting increasingly jealous of all the time she was spending with me, especially after we started talking about having children. She claimed he recorded her that night without her consent, setting up hidden cameras in the hotel room. He threatened to expose everything if I didn't leave you, she sobbed into the phone. He said he'd ruin my career, tell everyone about us. Crazy stuff, I know. This woman has the nerve to drop all the blame and try to make herself into a victim, after years of deliberate deception. Then Marie's mom unfortunately let slip that she had spoken to me as well and was fully on my side in this incident. The silence that followed was deafening. Within hours, Marie reached out to me again, flooding my phone with messages telling me the same story that she told her mother, that Lucas had been a jealous and crazy manipulator, that she was trapped in his web of obsession. She sent screenshots of threatening texts allegedly from him, though they were obviously sent from a burner phone. She claimed she'd been trying to break free from him for years, that marrying me was her attempt to escape. Each message was more desperate than the last, a drowning person clutching at straws. I wasn't having any of it and told her as much, reminding her that Catherine, Lucas's ex-wife, had already filled me in on their pattern. That's when Marie completely lost it. She showed up outside of Elias's house at 3 a.m., still in her work clothes, holding a guitar of all things. Yeah. Still living at Elias's place, although looking for an apartment at the moment, the housing market in our area is brutal. She tried to serenade me with our wedding song, her voice cracking on every other note while Elias's neighbors poked their heads out of windows to watch the spectacle. I don't know why she thinks she's God's gift to men that I would simply take her back since she has made such grand gestures all of a sudden. The Marie I thought I knew would never have made such a public scene. She was always private, composed, meticulous in maintaining her professional image. But maybe that Marie never existed. I've applied for a restraining order, documenting every unwanted contact, every dramatic gesture, every manipulative message. At this point, I only see her during court hearings, where she sits with her expensive lawyer, looking perfectly put together again, as if the crying woman outside Elias's house was just another one of her masks. The Reddit community has been surprisingly insightful about the whole mess. Hey man, you're not that much of an a-hole, wrote one commenter with thousands of upvotes. I do get why you had that one night stand, but to me, cheating is cheating. I feel like you could have just had some fun after serving divorce papers. Also, if Marie ended up finding out, it might help her divorce case. So that's also another factor you should have kept in mind, dude. Another user who claimed to be a therapist chimed in, NTA. Oh, this is so creepy. I can't believe they've been doing this for a whole decade basically, and it seems super toxic to begin with. I feel so bad for you, op, and this would be tough to hear from. I strongly recommend trauma-focused therapy. This kind of betrayal, especially with the step-sibling element, can leave deep psychological scars. Having a professional help you process this could be invaluable for your healing journey. The most haunting comment came from a throwaway account that I'm almost certain was Catherine. They won't stop. This is their pattern. They thrive on the drama, the secrecy, the pain they cause others. The best thing you can do is walk away and never look back. Build a new life where they can't reach you. Trust me, I know. I'm taking Catherine's advice. I've accepted a job offer in another state, somewhere Marie and Lucas have no connections. Elias is helping me pack up my life into boxes, carefully removing every trace of Marie from my belongings. Yesterday, I found our wedding album stuffed in the back of a closet. Looking at those photos now, I can see what I missed before, the way Lucas lingered in the background of every shot, the tension in Marie's smile, the elaborate lie we were all living. I dropped the album in the donation box without a second glance. Sometimes I still wake up reaching for her side of the bed, but those moments are getting rarer. The divorce proceedings are moving forward, and my lawyer says we should be done by summer. I've started therapy, joined a support group for people dealing with infidelity, and even adopted a dog, a gentle rescue pit bull who doesn't have a duplicitous bone in his body. Life goes on, and somehow, I'm going on with it.